Hey everyone, rest of Aquarimax Pets here, and we're going to get started. We're going to do some bug observations, specifically my aquatic beetle aquarium. You can see right here, sunburst diving beetle swimming around a ram's horn snail. Oh, there's a small diving beetle. I can see some more diving beetles there. The giant scavenger beetle has been quite active today, so I'm hoping we'll catch it out and about. I'm going to focus in on this individual beetle for the moment. Hopefully you can all hear me. I see that we have Joseph Tevere and Laura Taylor, Sean Meister, Clint's Reptiles. Excellent to see you. Jotaro, Frank the Tank, CactiVR, Tim. Not sure how to say your last name, but welcome, Tim. All right. So yeah, we're going to look at the aquatic beetle tank for a little while. And I'm also going to answer some Patreon questions. You can see here we have the giant whirligig beetles up at the surface. There's one resting. It is important to haul out, much as you would for a turtle. In an aquatic tank, you'd want to have a haul out for many species, not all species, but many species. And that's similar with most aquatic beetles. They like that. So if you do have questions, feel free to drop those in. I'm going to start out with a question from Aunt Sandy Skinks that she put in Patreon. And the question was, can you tell us about some isopods that are not so protein hungry? And I would say that the answer to that question is a little more complicated than you might think, because I think the idea of isopods being protein hungry, let's see, I was going to, where's that beetle? Move over here. Here it is. The idea of those beetles being protein hungry, or sorry, isopods being protein hungry is a little bit overblown in that isopods can certainly uh, want to eat protein, but a lot of it has to do with how much food they've been receiving, that kind of thing. So, and also the species. But for example, dairy cows, Porcellio AFF period laevis, once known as laevis, formerly known as laevis, um, are considered to be a fairly protein hungry species, but it does depend on what they've been fed and so on. If you've ever seen the live stream that I did with Kyle Candelian from Roach Crossing about this, we talked about this and how an isopod, a group of isopods not fed very well for a long time are likely to react in a more protein hungry way than one population of isopods that is well fed. But it may in fact be just the need for food and or moisture more than it is protein hunger. He did an experiment in which he had similar quantities of raw meat and some kind of fruit. I think it was a piece of a melon and a piece of raw meat, and offered them both and uh, took measurements, counted the quantity of isopods that were attracted to it at regular intervals for a period of time, and found no statistically significant differences between what they were attracted to uh, between those two items. So uh, there's that to be considered. Perhaps isopods, it's more about what they have in their environment. Do they have other food sources available and so on? Or are they actually protein hungry? I would also say that some species are less prone to having issues than others. Porcellionides pruinosus is one of the best species to keep with other species as a bioactive species. They are less likely to cause issues. That's not to say that if you keep them with millipedes, for example, and the millipede mismolts, that they won't go after a mismolted millipede. They probably will, but they're less likely to cause issues than some others. So hopefully that answers the question as well as I can. I feel like it's not an easy question to answer because there's so many factors that go into that. But yeah, thank you, Sandy, for the question. I hope that helps. I am going to go back to the chat. I think I missed quite a few. I see Mr. and Mrs. Morelli are here. Wendy Hickson, Kate Degonia have also joined in. Oh, And thank you. I just saw that Charlie Moorcroft became a patron. That's awesome. That just popped up on the screen. I see 503 is here as well. Green Jedi Monkey. Green Jedi Monkey gave zebras a dead fish. Surprised they didn't swarm it right away. Yeah, I'm a little surprised too, but it may have to do with how recently they ate and what they'd been eating and so on. Also, Armadillidium are probably some of the least protein hungry isopods. They do happen to be uh, more prone to eating green plant material, though. Theropod Hunter, I do see you here. I didn't see any messages prior to this, but I see you here. And I think it's pretty cool that Clint's here and or was here. Um, that's awesome. I've I've seen Clint here in the live streams before, but it's been a while, good while. So awesome to see Clint here. Had so much fun at the reptile rampage. That was amazing. Hope you all caught some of the content about that. I posted some content about it, and so did a lot of other creators. So hopefully check that out. Mr. and Mrs. Morelia, a super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat. Awesome. Since you are starting with aquatic animals tonight, what are your favorite nanofish? We love rummy nose tetras, pygmy cories, Kubutai resboras, and embers. Okay, well, I have kept pygmy cories, and I like those a lot. I like celestial pearl danios among the nanofish. Some that those are some that I have kept as far as nanofish are concerned. I'm trying to think of other nanofish that I have kept. Probably mostly just those two, the celestial pearl danios and the pygmy cories. I would love to try to keep the scarlet batis at some point, as well as some of the other really small resboras, the micro resboras. I think those would be really cool. So yeah, I think those are all excellent choices you have here that you listed. Sorry, I've got to apologize today. I'm not myself today because I'm not feeling well, and I'm realizing now that it's coming through in my reactions, in my timing, in my voice. It's coming through, and I apologize. I probably sound really weird, um, but I'm trying my best to make it work. So sorry if I'm not sounding like I usually do, and I seem a little confused. I'm just not feeling all that well. But uh, yeah, I am so glad, Clint, that I was able to come. I can't even. It was amazing. The just everything that it was well orchestrated and just so fun. A perfect mix of spontaneity and planning, and just really miraculous. And I see that. Ooh, pygmy. Charlie Markoff just said, "Ever try pygmy sunfish?" I have never kept those. I think of the true nanofish, I've kept very few. I've kept some fairly small fish. Oh, there's a banded diving beetle right there. Now, this is so funny that before I had the giant scavenger beetle, it was all over the tank. And now that I'm filming, it's not. But I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do a live feeding of these giant whirligig beetles. Their favorite food? Soft-bodied floating insects. So here we go. I'm going to put a few of those down and let them go after them. They go right through these high fruit flies very, very quickly. I don't know if you can see that very well. Can you see what's going on there with the... Oh, that's better. Does that look better? Peanut beetles. Green Jedi Monkey. I know that Wally of Supreme Gecko works with them. I've never worked with peanut beetles, but I think well, I know he does. That'd be a good resource for you. Kate Degonia says, "Hope you're not overstepping a boundary, but you haven't felt well the past couple Wednesdays." True enough. Please take care of yourself. Well, thank you. I think I was doing better last week than I am this week, but I do appreciate that, and I'm going to see if I can do a little bit better job of taking care of myself. I do think I need it. So, Theropod Hunter, have you got or thought about getting a Gabiformius lentis? I've heard they're as good as dwarf whites when it comes to cleaning up. They also don't breed as fast. Well, that could be an advantage. I have not looked into keeping those particularly because I don't have a permit to ship them. And though I do have some species I don't have a permit to ship, I am reducing those. I'm moving away from keeping species that I can't ship across state lines so that I can focus on species that I can ship. And I just noticed something. We've got our giant scavenger beetle. And this is, I don't know if you can see it from this angle, but it's munching on some of this dwarf water lettuce. If you can't see it here, I'm going to move it over. You'll see it from underneath. There it is. Look at that giant scavenger beetle. It is a big beetle. It's about 2 inches long, maybe a little bigger. It really likes to eat the water lettuce, and I have basically unlimited supply of water lettuce because I grew up in my goldfish tank. So it's very easy to feed. It also seems to eat the duckweed, which I'm very happy about because duckweed goes crazy. Um, so let's see. And Tim Tim asks, can you keep the beetles with shrimps or nanofish? I would recommend not doing that because it's basically a matter of if the beetle is big enough to eat the fish, it probably will. If the fish is big enough to eat the beetle, it probably will. And if they are similar in size, they will probably bother each other. And there is Kimberly Kitty. Welcome. Welcome, Kimberly Kitty. Good to see you here as well. I haven't seen the creeping water bug. I assume it's in here. Haven't seen it recently, so I'm not sure. I hope it's doing well, and I'm assuming it's eating some of the same things the other beetles are eating, but and the other bugs. There are other true bugs in here, like the water boatman. I see the water boatman, not the back swimmers. The little back swimmers are not doing so well, but the water boatmen are doing well. And let's see. So, oh, Kimberly Kitty, you got the giant scavenger beetle. That's awesome. I love it to hear that. I love that when I hear somebody got something because they saw it on the channel. It makes me happy. I just put a whole bunch of fruit flies in there. Now I can't find out where I put them. I don't want to show the glare. It's interesting how the other beetles, not just the whirligig beetles, but the other beetles will come up and try to go after the fruit flies a little bit too. Um, so I'm sorry I'm not getting all the chat. I'm not going to be able to answer all of it, but I'm going through and see what I can catch. So Mr. and Mrs. Morelli says, where did you get your dwarf water lettuce? Haven't seen it locally and heard that it doesn't ship well. You're right that it doesn't ship well. I have successfully shipped it, but it's kind of tricky. You have to ship it dry and not dry, but you put it in a bag and not with a whole bunch of water. You leave uh, you leave it kind of damp, basically. But you don't want the tops of the leaves. They don't like to be immersed in water. So just a little bit of water in the bag, lots of air in the bag, and that seems to be the best way to ship it. But it doesn't ship extremely well, and it's better to ship it fast, like Ship It Express. I got it just with a trade. Someone brought over a few shrimp, and they brought over some other plants along with the shrimp that they were bringing over, and so a few of those plants were dwarf water lettuce, and that's what happened. That's how it worked out. So um, once you get it going, it grows really well. It just really hates to have the upper surface of its leaves get wet, which is part of the reason why it doesn't like shipping. But once you get it there, if you can get some of it to recover from the shipping stress, it'll usually do really well. I love seeing all these beetles milling around both on the surface and under the surface of the water. It's pretty fun. So let's see. Yotaro, how often do you check on your garters while they're in brumation? Usually about once a week-ish. And, that varies a little bit here and there, but usually about once a week. Be about right. Oh, now you can get a good view of the giant scavenger beetle for a moment anyway until it takes off. You see how much larger it is than the giant whirligig beetles. They don't really deserve the term giant so much in comparison with the giant scavenger beetle, but they do in comparison with normal whirligig beetles, which are a very small fraction of the size of these guys. So let's see. Going back and see what I missed. Any resources for microfauna for water that won't totally destroy plants? Or is a springtails cleanup crew for small water containers? You can work with some of the species of ostracods or seed shrimp can be okay if they're not like in incredible numbers. They can work that way. I see Ivan Gonzalez. Welcome, or is it Ivan? I'm not sure, but welcome either way. So Kimberly Kitty got one tiny piece of water lettuce accidentally with the water bugs from Bugs in Cyberspace. Now I have way too much. Yeah, that's one reason why this scavenger water beetle is so nice. Giant scavenger beetle. ET phone home. Do you have any vampire or Halloween crabs? I do not. I have kept a number of different species of crab, but I do not currently have any. Vampire crabs are definitely on my list of creatures I want to keep. I enjoyed the video that Clint did on those. Look at that big old beetle. Now you can really see the size difference there. I'm going to put some pellets in because it's fun to watch the beetles down at the bottom go after the pellets down among the plants. I have noticed that some of my Nubius plants are now being nibbled on by the giant scavenger beetle. At first he was leaving them alone, but I think I got low on water lettuce that was in here, and he started munching on it. So here comes some food pellets. We can see what comes after them. There are some seed shrimp in here. There are scuds or amphipods. There are very small diving beetles. There are all kinds of things, especially the large diving beetle that come after them too. Train boy. So thank you. Love to hear that. I'm glad that I helped inspire you to keep some isopods. That's fantastic. So gather for magic. What is upkeep like on a setup like this? It's actually really easy. I do about a 10 to 20% water change on this aquarium once a week. And once in a while I miss a week, but basically once a week, a 10 to 20% water change. I feed several times a week. I have found that for this particular setup, it does best if I feed smaller amounts more frequently. So I feed almost every day. Fruit flies on the surface, sometimes moths or small crickets or something. For these whirligig beetles, the whirligig beetles on the surface, and then pelleted food for the other beetles, as well as live Daphnia, since I breed Daphnia. I toss Daphnia in here pretty frequently, and it works well. So we can see here's one of the diving beetles here, munching on a pellet. Exotic world of geckos, welcome. It's a little bit underwhelming right now that just one little beetle is munching, but it's fun to see it. And pretty soon we'll have others. Let's see, there's another one coming down. Oh, nope, spoke too soon. Turned. Took off. Left, scampered. But, oh, it's come back. But there's BioLives. I have seed shrimp in this aquarium, actually. Bugs in Cyberspace sent me quite a few seed shrimp. And I also have scuds in here, as well as the ram's horn snails. So those are my cleanup crew. A couple of different species of seed shrimp, amphipods. It's Hyalella azteca is the species that I have in here. And then the snails. Oh yeah, freeze-dried shrimp are a good food for the setup like this. You can also use frozen mysis shrimp, frozen bloodworms. Those are good foods as well. I love to watch it when the beetle grabs onto a piece of food and then just kind of slowly floats up with it like this. It's always fun. Oh, there it goes, taking off. I'm not sure where it's going with that, but it is going. So is that one. Sometimes they seem to get confused and they just kind of mill around until they bump into a food pellet. It looks like that's what this one is doing. Its chemosensory organs are telling it that its food is there, but it's not quite sure exactly where. Precise location is not its forte, apparently. Oh, there's a little lull in the chat. Maybe I can catch up on things that I missed before. I don't see as much of the chat on the phone like this. When I use the iPad, I get see more of it at a time. Now, scrolling back, I don't think I missed a whole lot. Here's one of the Thermonectis marmoratus, sunburst diving beetle. Easily the most beautiful in the tank. Got several of those. Never get tired of them. I think that's Frank was just saying something up about that too. The activity in the tank is so fascinating. Never get tired of it. Could not agree more. Ooh, there's the face of that scavenger beetle doing its thing. So Tim set up a Daphnia culture with algae last week. The algae is from a polluted tank. Can I do it to culture my algae without ammonia? Sunlight enough, or do I need some ferts? You may need to add fertilizer. I will put out a caution. I've been culturing Daphnia for many years. I initially began culturing Daphnia decades ago and have done it for many years with some interruptions, admittedly. But basically, culturing Daphnia with algae has its own problems. Part of the problem is that the conditions you need to culture algae successfully and the conditions you need to culture Daphnia successfully are not necessarily the same. And so when you are attempting to raise both in the same enclosure, it's not necessarily going to work because there also is going to be sort of an arms race between the two. So the Daphnia are going to be trying to desperately reproduce enough so that they can take advantage of that population of algae. And the algae is going to try to be growing. And so the stress that they're going to be causing each other, partly because as algae grows, and as its population waxes and wanes, and as it's exposed to light and it's not exposed to light at different times, it's going to be changing the pH. It's going to be wreaking havoc potentially with the pH in the aquarium. And so you can get, when the lights go out, you can have pH crash and things like that. It can be bad. So I would say that raising them in the same enclosure is not necessarily the easiest way to go about it. Some people do it. I do not bother with that. I find that it's better to focus on feeding them other things. One of the favorite things that I've been feeding them lately is just I take normal yeast you would use to bake bread, and you soak it in water until it's thoroughly dissolved. That is kind of important. Then, oh, look at this. This one, the water scavenger beetle's munching on some food, and the other beetles are kind of fighting for it. That's interesting. I hadn't seen it. I assumed it ate the pellets, but I can't see it anymore. But I hadn't actually seen it eating the pellets. I just sort of assumed I'd seen it only eating the plants. Anyway, with the Daphnia, I feed the bread yeast soaked in water, and I add some astaxanthin. The source is Hematococcus algae. You can just buy it online, like on Amazon or something. You buy astaxanthin and make sure that it says the source is Hematococcus algae, and it's not like a capsule or something. It's just the pure powder. You mix those two together, make sure they're thoroughly dissolved, and put enough of that in to make the water slightly cloudy, and the Daphnia go crazy. You don't have to worry about trying to balance algae and Daphnia. If you want to use Daphnia as the primary food for, algae as your primary food for Daphnia, what I do suggest you do is grow that in a separate tank, and then just use the green water to feed the Daphnia. Just add some when you're ready to feed them. That would be my suggestion. Okay. Oh, Destruction Warehouse. I see you have a comment, but I didn't see your other comment. It's hard to keep up with them all, so you can always repeat the comment if you would like to. Let's see. Nathan, have you ever had algae problems in your aquarium? If so, how did you take care of it? I have definitely had algae issues in the aquarium, and uh, not necessarily in this one, not serious ones in this aquarium, but I have had algae issues in aquariums before. And there are a lot of ways you can deal with that, and that it's a complicated uh, issue because it's a balance of nutrients. It's making sure that, for example, a lot of plant growth, like using plants that suck up a lot of nutrients, like water lettuce, is something I do in my goldfish aquarium. I put a lot of water lettuce in there, and when you put a lot of water lettuce in there, then it's both shading the lower levels of the aquarium, but it is also sucking up a lot of nutrients and competing with the algae. So one of the factors you can use is a lot of healthy plant growth, and part of that is fertilizing the plant. So I fertilize my plants twice a week with a like an all-in-one fertilizer, and that helps. You need to make sure you're balancing light, you're balancing nutrients, you're balancing nutrient export, that kind of thing, and that will make a huge difference with algae. But that's a whole nother discussion. I mean, we could talk about that for a long time, but I would say keeping all of those things in mind and um, making that a balance will help. And there's Orang Mango is here. Young Lad is here too. Welcome. And I'm glad to hear you're joking, Destruction Warehouse. Can be hard to tell sometimes, especially when I'm sick. And Kimberly Kitty has another good suggestion too about the algae, that a lot of times that algae issues will occur early on before a balance is struck. Good point. And Heaven, how's the glassopods? I will have to check again. I checked fairly recently. Didn't see a whole lot of the there were, I'll have to, it's been a while. I did check recently, but now I need to check again because I don't know about I'll have to see how they're doing. But glad to see you back, and I will try to check those soon. And you have some still, I assume, Heaven. How are they doing? So Theropod Hunter has a species of aquatic beetle, only 6 millimeters long. I think I have some of those in here too. I haven't seen any in the last little while, but I have some. Bugs in Cyberspace sent me a bunch of them, and they're really cool. There's even one that looks just like the sunburst diving beetles, but very much smaller. Oh, Steve-O's here. Say hello to Bobo. Okay, happy to do that. Hello, Bobo. Welcome. Is it Bobo or Bobo? I don't know. Oh, Train Boy. You know what? I don't have cappuccino anymore. Like I mentioned, I've been really trying to focus on species that I can ship. I guess I can actually ship cappuccinos. Maybe I should get some more cappuccinos actually. So Orang Mango, I haven't seen larvae yet in the tank. Ooh, look, they're sharing. Or at least they both happen to be partaking of the same pellet. I don't know if sharing is the right term here. Oh, Tobias, you have some of the whiteout Nazatum through Stevo. That's awesome. How are they doing? Okay, Kimberly wants to know my favorite millipede and why. Getting more interested in millipedes, but not sure which way to expand. Okay, two species that I really love. One of the ivories, Chicobulus spinageris, and one is the fire leg millipede, the Trigonulus macropygus. And I'll tell you why. The ivories, their colors are absolutely striking. They're fairly easy to breed in captivity. They get fairly large. Males and females are super easy to tell apart. And they're native to the US. and fairly available. And captive bred stock is available as well. I would say, let's see, the fire leg millipedes are absolutely gorgeous. They have the beautiful red color with the yellow and orange legs, which is fantastic. Um, they are fairly easy to breed as well, and all the stock that I know of that's in the hobby is from captive bred stock. It's been going for generations. Uh, they are fairly forgiving. They don't live a super long time, but they do pretty well, and they're just brilliant. And they were my first millipedes that I bred. The first millipedes I kept and bred. So probably those two. There are others that I really like as well, but those are probably my two favorites. Okay, so it is pronounced Bobo. So I send my greetings to Bobo. So Tobias, a confirmed female eastern tiger salamander. Hope you're able to find one. My favorite species of isopod? If I had to pick one, it'd probably be Armadillidium gestroi, just because they have such amazing colors. They're colored rather like this sunburst diving beetle here. That's what they remind me of. They remind me of each other. So if I had to pick one, probably that one. So you used to have a beetle tank, Heaven. That's awesome. Theropod hunter. Have I kept freshwater limpets or pea clams? Well, I have had Acroloxus species, which are kind of snail that looks limpet-like. They are tiny. Um, they also call them cap snails. I don't think they're true limpets, but they look kind of like them. Their shells are shaped like them. That's it, though. 503, your Jestroys and your Zingers had babies. That's awesome. So what species of millipede is the giant bumblebee destruction warehouse? I think I've heard of those, but I'm not sure what species they are. Oh, there's Ramingo as well. Oh, look, we're getting a head-on view of the little beetle. I wish I could focus better on its eyes, and you can see how its eyes are adapted for um, viewing above the water level and below the water level. You can also see its raptorial forelegs there, which is kind of cool. These are usually kind of afraid of. They can be very reactive when you go to the tank. There are 6 or 7 up at the surface, and you get close to the tank, and then they'll dive under the water because they're spooked. But looks like it's doing okay. Well, I'm glad to see you back, Ramingo. All right. I was gonna see if we could find some of the smaller creatures in here along the glass. I'm not sure I'll be able to focus on them well enough for you to see them, but okay, we can. Oh, Tobias, you got your partner a lychee gecko. That's fantastic. So Anodendlobolus monilicornis, in my understanding, is the true bumblebee millipede, but Smoky Oaks is a Narcissus species, isn't it? Oh, Domingo, you made friends with a jumping spider. How cool is that? Oh, it's nice, Tobias, when you get one with an amazing temperament. I've heard lychees can definitely end up the other way. I was trying to focus a little bit on the ram's horn snails. They're a pretty cool snail. Kept those for decades too, and they really do help maintain the ecosystem. They'll go after whatever food the beetles don't eat. I think there's some of them doing that now down here. Yep, and they'll help with algae and stuff as long as you're keeping the tank in balance. They make good food for puffers if you have puffer fish, which I don't currently have, but have had. So, Steve-O, there are no freshwater isopods in here at the moment. I'd be happy to add some point, but I don't currently have access to any, but I think it would be fun to put some in. I've kept freshwater isopods before. It's just been a long time. Wow, theropod hunter, an orb weaver at 7 centimeter leg span. I've been working on trying to get an orb weaver for my um, spider haul from Cobweb Castle. I did find a very large cat face spider. It ended up being gravid, and she has now produced her egg case and so on. But it's winter, and she's no longer uh, alive, basically. So, but the egg case is. But I'm not allowed to hatch it in the house, so I have to. It's outside in the garage so that it can overwinter there, and I'm going to allow the babies to go disperse into nature. That's where they were. That's where the mother came from. There's Aunt Sandy Skinks. I did address your question. I hope I addressed it to your satisfaction. Let me know what you think when you're able to listen to that. Oh, heaven, are you able to collect some freshwater isopods? That would be pretty cool. Will angelfish attack freshwater isopods? Almost certainly. Yep, they specialize in eating creatures in that size range, or at least they're very good at it. So I would imagine so. Yeah, I know a place where I can find freshwater isopods around here. I just can't collect them there because it's a preserve. It's a shorelands preserve, and they're all over the place. You get on the boardwalk and you get down on your belly and you look into the water and you can see them crawling around, but can't collect them there. The first isopods I ever kept and bred were freshwater isopods, but this was years and years ago. We're talking like 35-ish years ago or more. So Tobias, it depends on the fish and it depends on the bag. Like when I'm shipping Daphnia or shipping fish for that matter, which I don't do as often as I used to. Uh, I ship the Daphnia a lot. I don't ship fish as much anymore, but occasionally I do. I use the breather bags, and the breather bags uh, uh, will house the fish longer, satisfactorily for longer. They can be 2 or 3 days in there if they're properly treated beforehand. You do want to purge their digestive systems for a couple of days before you bag them up. And then they can usually they'll be good for 2 or 3 days in one of those bags, but it totally depends, of course, on the size of the fish and how many fish are in the bags and all that kind of stuff. Those things are definitely things to keep in mind. But if it's properly done, um, you can do that for a little while. But it's definitely not something you want to do for much longer than a couple of days. Oh yes, Domingo. There are many species of freshwater isopods, a few thousand of them, if I am not mistaken. And there are some you can find in Europe for sure. I think Acellus aquaticus is pretty widespread in Europe, for example. And yes, Stebo, actually, I was thinking about that the other day, the dueling hikes. I want to do that probably around May. I think May would be a good time because right now there are a few critters out and about, but not so many anymore. But I think we should try to set it up for May. So scuds or amphipods are related to isopods, but they're not technically isopods. They are amphipods. They're similar in some ways, but quite different. Rather than being dorsally flattened, they tend to be laterally compressed for one. But they are crustaceans. What's my favorite movie or series? So hard to say. I really enjoyed the original Lord of the Rings series, even though I was a fan of the books for years before the movies came out, and was very disappointed with certain things that they did. All in all, I found that series to be well done. If I ever see the springtails that hang out in the snow in your area, I have. It's been a while since I've seen them, but I have seen them. I think it's been years though. I've seen other springtails active in the winter on the water surface too. Just was it last winter or the winter before that? Oh, that's true. That's true, Domingo. Um, they, I remember that now. I've actually read a part of the Lord of the Rings in Italian, and I remember that now. Oh, you know what? I'm looking at the clock and realizing I'm going to have to wind down. But look, there are 3 sunburst diving beetles altogether. Love it. And Yotaro, yes, I was upset that they killed Haldir. I thought that was gratuitous. No reason to do that. That was not reflective of what happened in the book at all. Of course, Haldir wasn't even anywhere near there. Uh, and yeah, I was unhappy with that. Well, I have one more minute. Thank you all for joining in. It's been great to have you. I'm sorry that I'm not quite myself today, but I'm happy to be here with you. Happy to share my aquatic beetle tank with you. And um, just happy that everybody is here and that we get to enjoy some critters together. Next week, I hope to feel a little bit more like myself and be a little more coherent and see how that goes. But I will try. But it's been great to have you here. So take care, everyone, and we'll